The hermit's path. Every life follows a path. Most people move through their days without thinking much about the small habits that guide them, the words they speak, the choices they repeat, the routines that quietly shape who they become. The hermit's path is a place to slow down and look at those small things. In this series, we explore simple ideas and practical steps that can help bring a little more awareness and intention into everyday life. Nothing complicated, just thoughtful ways to live a little more deliberately, one small step at a time. The truth about the alpha beta dynamic, what it really is. Most people get this wrong from the start. When they hear alpha and beta, they think about power, control, dominance, submission. They picture one man standing over another, one giving orders, the other obeying. And that's where everything falls apart, because that version doesn't last. It either turns into resentment or it turns into something hollow that never really satisfies either man. What I've come to understand through my own life, through my own relationship, is that a real alpha beta dynamic isn't about power at all. It's about responsibility. It's about one man choosing to carry the weight and the other choosing to trust him enough to let him. That's a very different thing. And you don't see it talked about much because it's quieter than what people expect. There's no performance in it, no need to prove anything. Just two men finding their place with each other. The word alpha gets thrown around a lot. Most people think it means dominant, in control, always leading, but that's surface level. A real alpha, at least the kind I'm talking about, isn't defined by control. He's defined by what he's willing to carry. He takes on direction, decision-making, emotional steadiness, the responsibility for how far things go. He doesn't just push. He measures the push. He watches. He reads. He adjusts. Because once another man starts trusting him, that trust becomes something he has to protect, not use, not take advantage of, protect. That's the difference most people miss. Anyone can take control. Very few can be trusted with it. Now, here's the part that gets misunderstood even more. People hear beta and think weak, passive, lesser. That's not what this is. A real beta in this kind of dynamic is choosing something very specific. He's choosing to let go of carrying everything alone. Not because he can't, but because he doesn't have to anymore. He still has strength, he still has will, but instead of holding the direction himself, he places that trust in someone else. And that takes more strength than most people realize, because you're not just letting someone lead, you're trusting that they won't push you past your limits, that they'll recognize when you're at the edge, that they'll take care of you when you get there. That kind of trust isn't blind, it's earned. And once it's given, it runs deep. This is where the dynamic actually lives. It's not in the labels, it's in the exchange. The alpha takes on weight, responsibility, direction. The beta gives trust, openness, willingness to follow that direction. And when it works, something settles between them. The alpha doesn't have to question himself constantly because someone believes in him. The beta doesn't have to carry everything alone because someone is holding the line for him. It creates a kind of balance that's hard to explain if you've never felt it. But if you have, you recognize it immediately. There's one thing that makes or breaks this dynamic: the line between push and harm. A real alpha knows where that line is and respects it without question. He can push hard, he can demand more, he can take someone right up to their edge, but he never crosses into damage. And if he does, the whole thing breaks. Because the moment trust is gone, there's nothing left to stand on. That's why responsibility matters more than anything else in this kind of relationship. Without it, it's not a dynamic. It's just control. There's a reason this kind of connection feels so different. When it's real, the beta experiences something most people don't talk about: relief, not weakness, not submission in the way people think. Relief, the kind that comes from knowing I don't have to hold everything right now. And at the same time, the alpha feels something just as strong: purpose. Because now what he does matters to someone else. His decisions matter, his steadiness matters, his restraint matters. And that combination, relief on one side, purpose on the other, that's what makes the bond feel so solid. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it shows up in small things. One man setting the direction without needing to explain every step. The other following, not out of obligation, but because he trusts where it's leading. A look, a tone of voice, a quiet correction. And just as important, care. Checking in without making it obvious, noticing when something's off, stepping in before things go too far. It's steady, consistent, and over time, it builds something that doesn't shake easily. It's not abuse. It's not control for the sake of control. It's not one man being less than the other. And it's not something that can be forced. If either side isn't real, it doesn't work. If the alpha isn't responsible, it breaks. If the beta doesn't truly trust, it never forms. This only works when both men are choosing it, fully. If I had to put it as simply as possible, an alpha-beta dynamic works when one man takes responsibility for the direction and the other trusts him enough to follow without fear of being harmed by it. That's it. Everything else comes from that. Most people will never understand this, and that's fine. It's not something you can explain your way into. It's something you recognize when you've lived it, when you've felt that balance, that steadiness, that quiet sense of being exactly where you're supposed to be, with the right person holding the other side of it. If you've had that, even once, you don't forget it. Walking the hermit's path doesn't require dramatic change. Most of the time, it begins with something small, a new habit, a different way of thinking, or a simple choice made with a little more awareness. If something in this episode resonated with you, consider giving the video a like and sharing it with someone who might also appreciate the idea. And if you'd like to continue exploring simple ways to live more intentionally, be sure to subscribe and join me again along the Hermit's Path.